Linda is going to be doing the teaching part this morning on your many faces.
So welcome. It's lovely to see all of you again. Some of you for the first time, some of you we've been seeing on a pretty regular basis. We've been dating, I think, distance dating. I went ahead and created a little PowerPoint because I think some of us are visual learners, and so I thought that might help. So you'll still be able to see me as I'm talking, but you'll also see a PowerPoint, okay? And we'll see how that's going to work for us. Okay, can you see that? Jennifer, can you see it? Yes? Oh, that's right, you're all...
Okay, yes, I can see it.
Like you're all muted.
Except now it went a little warpy. But
hold on a minute, I have to go back.
Yeah, you were fine, it was showing.
Oh my, hold on. A little glitch. Here we go. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, hold on.
Go back to share screen.
Right, it came off on my whiteboard so you couldn't see.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So,
now you can see your many faces. So this is a book actually by Virginia Satir, and it's called Your Many Faces, The First Step to Being Loved. That's what attracted me when I saw this book. Well, actually all the books by Virginia Satir I'm really attracted to. This was just a little book that I hadn't really seen before and I found. So I ordered it and I've been reading it. So a lot of what's in my PowerPoint is coming from Virginia Satir, directly from the book, and I've given her credit at the end. Some of it's coming a little bit from my discussion I had with John Banman. So I called and talked to him and told him I was reading this book, and he was like, I'm reading that book too. So we had a little discussion about it. So let me just tell you that the faces, because I was curious what she meant by your many faces. Faces in this book is referring to your emotions. And she also refers to faces as our parts. And so when she refers to the faces as parts, it's really the face of the part that is displaying the emotion we're experiencing. So what that means is that when we have an emotion, we have a face that we present outside to people, but we also have a face that we have internally. So sometimes my face on the outside is showing, you know, I'm smiling, but on the inside, I have this face that's showing maybe sadness or even resentment. And so this goal is to get to know your many faces. And so getting to know is not enough. It's like, I know my shoe's untied, so I don't have to do anything about it. She's recommending and suggesting that as we get to know our faces, that we can look at and explore and really embrace the positive intention behind every face or every emotion that we have. So that's sort of a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So she talks about how our energy is our source for life. So think about your life force energy. So this is maybe in the beginning when she was looking at our life force energy. There are things that provide energy for us, and that's the experience. It's not just feelings. It's the experience of hopefulness, helpfulness, powerfulness, new possibilities, change and choice. And so when I look at like what's going on in the world right now with the pandemic and with the protesting that's happening around the world, but really a lot in the United States, mainly I think in the United States, we look at people that were feeling hopeless. So if I go to the next screen and you see what depletes our energy, what takes away from our energy, our life force energy, is a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, powerlessness, no possibilities, no change, no choice. So I look at like with the pandemic, how there was a sense of helplessness. It's like I'm quarantined, I can't do anything. And so that can deplete my energy. And there is this sort of swelling of mental health sort of crisis because people feel helpless and they feel powerless and sort of like there are no possibilities. So we want to look at how can we begin to, with ourselves, when we're having these experiences of feeling hopeless and helpless and powerless and no possibilities, what can we begin to explore about ourselves? She refers to these experiences as sort of like we're in an emotional jail. So the emotional jail comes from this sort of sense of the rules for being a good person, in sort of no matter what's happening outside, based on sort of my childhood learnings and maybe my family rules that are conscious or unconscious, I have this sort of universal, it's a universal should list. I must always be right. I must always be clean, bright or smart, sane, good, obedient, and healthy. So when we're trying to follow this universal should list, which is, remember, shoulds are always expectations. I have this unrealistic and it's not even possible to have to follow these, because the key is I must always be these things. So if I'm feeling hopeless and I'm trying to be good and healthy and obedient, then there creates this sort of inner conflict inside of myself that results in some of my faces of disappointment or anger or sadness or hurt start to show. And her recommendation is that it's okay to have all of our faces because they all have very positive intentions. So we want to explore like what's behind those faces, and can we begin to really befriend all of our emotions and really dialogue with them, like what are they wanting for us, and make different choices about maybe how we express them or how we share with someone, this is what I'm experiencing, not to make it go away, but first to just bring some acknowledgement and some acceptance to this is my experience. And she writes the book, and I mean, you know, she is a little bit eccentric, I think. She wrote this book as a play. So there's the first part of the play, and then there's an intermission, and then there's the second part of the play. The first part of the play, the characters in the play are the emotions. And each emotion has the face that goes along with it. So like anger has an angry face, disappointed has a disappointed face, and then you have the happy face. And it's like there's this little dance and this little meeting of the emotions with each other to see how anger is like meeting with compassion, and what happens to the anger when compassion comes in and it's like, hey, I want to know what's happening for you. And when I say that, I think about, I don't know, many of you maybe have seen some of the news, is sort of the police officers like taking a knee with other people or having their arms around some of the protesters, and that sort of that anger being met with this compassion and this acceptance. And then what happens to the anger is like it's being accepted and understood and connected with. There's a softening that happens. So the goal isn't necessarily to get rid of the emotions. The goal is more to find out what are your triggers, what's triggering. And the trigger, again, is just a step along the way, because underneath the trigger is there's a cause for that trigger. And oftentimes that comes from a belief system that we have, we're holding and we're sort of like following consciously or unconsciously. So many of us, as we're counselors or helpers or healers, you know, at the bottom of this PowerPoint slide, it says, no matter what the cost or situation, for everyone counts more than me. And who am I to ask for anything for myself? So the first step, loving yourself, is that you can begin to ask for something for yourself and maybe even give it to yourself. We don't have to rely on somebody else, but to be able to give yourself permission to say, you know, I matter, I am me, I count. And then we look at the emotions, sort of like emotions are communicators. They're sort of like the people they brought in for the protests. You know, they are people that know how to communicate with people that are rioting and protesting. They're sort of these mediators and facilitators. Well, our emotions are communicators. They're messengers of triggers that we have. So we want to listen to those communicators or messengers of like, what triggered me? What happened here that I'm having this particular emotion, and what's underneath that? So emotions are not positive or negative. I mean, I often hear people say, oh, that's a positive emotion or a negative. We try to really stay away from that language because it's not one of Satir's beliefs at all. And it's not one of my beliefs. It's not one of Jennifer's beliefs. We have reactive emotions. But again, that's not, I can have a reactive emotion and I'm reacting with happiness or even joy. So we don't want to begin labeling like emotion is positive or negative. And again, what's below the emotion, what's underneath it, what gets triggered or activated. And I know that in the last couple of weeks we've talked about that it really always is a result of an unmet yearning. So we become these explorers of what is my yearning? What am I yearning for? So I can begin to manifest my true self. I'm manifesting my true self in the place of my yearning being met, whether it's being met by connecting with you today and listening to Tonda, listening to Jennifer. My yearning is met for connection and belonging and peace. And then, you know, the managing that a lot of people, you know, maybe I want to manage my external world, like who I surround myself with, that gives me energy or depletes my energy. I can manage that, but that does still not control my inside. I can be around a group of really very loving, gentle, compassionate people, but on the inside, I can still have my own inside of like maybe being angry or frustrated or hurt. So external doesn't always control the inside. So the work that of Satir's work is that in the work that we do is like helping people be more in charge of and make different choices and sort of what we call better choices about their inside. And in order to do that, we have to know our insides. So in knowing our insides, meaning that we also know our faces, we know our emotions, we know what causes the emotions, we can welcome our emotions, we can listen to them and invite them to give us the message about what we're needing and what we're wanting, and maybe give permission to ask for what we want and what we need. And then, so it's like, know your many faces, know your triggers and the causes of your triggers. And our inner life and outer coping are very linked. So we know that it's like, if I am angry inside, I'm going to cope on the outside differently. So maybe I placate, I just put a smile on my face, but I'm angry on the inside, or maybe I'm blaming somebody else. So maybe some of the people that are experiencing the pandemic, you know, there's this inner life of fear. There can be an inner life of fear and anger because I'm being told I have to quarantine and I don't want to do that. And here in the United States, a lot of places it's not mandatory that you wear a mask. So I went to the store yesterday. Half the people are not wearing masks anymore, because they're tired of it and they're not as afraid as they used to be. So maybe they're sort of like being a little irrelevant, or they're being super reasonable. Oh, this is not going to hurt me. So the coping is very linked to our inner life. So we want to know our faces. We want to be really curious about our many faces, and not just the face that we present to the world. It's like the faces that we present to ourselves inside. Can we begin to be looking, maybe some of those faces we have shut up in closets because we don't want to look at them, or we don't even want to acknowledge and accept them. And all of these faces contain vital energy. They contain all of our emotions, contain our life force energy. So we want to, I think all of us want to be able to be tuned in and connecting and manifesting more of our true selves, which means that we're more connected. There's this big river of life force energy flowing through us. And the more we are able to know and accept and be curious about our emotions and what the causes of our emotions, and make choices about what those causes are, which may result in like do some healing work, do some compassionate work for ourselves, better self-care, which Jennifer talked about last week with the mandala. That can increase our vital energy in this time of like quarantining and with the protesting that's happening. And so, and I look at like, why would I want to have more vital energy? Well, it's really hard to appreciate myself and others when I'm so busy making judgments of this is good and that's bad. Every time I do, this is good, or I'm bad, I shouldn't be angry, I should be happy. that is taking away from my energy. That depletes my energy. And there is more of a sense of like, whether it's hopelessness or helplessness or not very many possibilities. So when I can appreciate life in myself, and so I thought that was a really interesting sentence by Satir, appreciating life in myself, my life force energy. When I can appreciate my life force energy, it leads to a much greater appreciation of life energy in others. And when I am able to appreciate my life energy, and that allows me to be more available to, and more, it's not even available, it's like I'm taking action and appreciating others, then that leads to a closeness. So the closeness to me means like it leads to a connection, a deeper connection, a deeper loving, a deeper appreciating of myself. And when I'm doing that for me, those yearnings are met. Those are yearnings, connection and love and peace and acceptance. Then I am more able and willing, and it's effortlessly appreciating other people and the beauty in the another person. So I think that's her message in like wanting to help people begin to love themselves. Like what gets in the way, and what are we willing to like begin to explore in a loving way. And I was listening to Pema Chodron this morning, and she was saying that we all have those parts of us that are kind of mean sometimes, or that we're really maybe not kind to others in a moment of like a quick moment of anger or a long moment of fear. And that when we do that, and we can accept that about ourselves without saying, oh, I'm awful, or I'm bad, or what's wrong with me, because that depletes our energy. We can be, wow, what's going on for me? And be, sort of slow it down and pause, and like become really curious, and really get to that place of compassion for ourselves. So usually underneath, sort of like if there's anger, there's hurt, and usually that sort of can come from sort of like how I'm experiencing myself in a not very loving way. So we want to begin to be compassionate when possible, as much as possible, get ourselves out of that emotional jail of like the universal should list, give ourselves a break, I guess, so to speak. And then, so we have these breakout questions, and before you like go, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done in 30 minutes? Just know that it's like, one, you can take a picture of the questions. I'm not savvy enough yet to send you the questions in the breakout room. Maybe Jennifer is, but you can choose which of these questions. You can choose all of them collaboratively. You can decide which you want to go to first. There's not really necessarily a sequence. So again, getting away from good or bad, right or wrong, feel free. You can make your choices. I have 3 questions. When am I consciously or automatically manifesting my energy? So automatically means I'm sort of like on autopilot and manifesting my energy. I may know that I'm tired, but I'm just sort of automatically going through the motions and doing what I'm doing, versus that I'm consciously manifesting my energy, like from a place of love and connection and peace and acceptance. So when am I consciously or automatically manifesting my energy? So it could be like when you're watching TV, that maybe you're sort of automatically manifesting your energy. When I'm consciously manifesting my energy, maybe, I do a morning meditation and I go for a walk. I'm consciously manifesting my energy. And I'm cooking, and when I'm cooking, I'm creating, and I'm cooking for someone that I care for. So I'm consciously manifesting my energy. When I connect with friends over Zoom, I'm consciously manifesting my energy, because it brings me joy, it brings me humor, and it's playful, and sometimes it's serious, but it's very conscious. I'm making choices to manifest my true self with my beautiful life force energy. And then 2, what faces and emotions do I consciously or unconsciously judge as good or bad? So emotion that I consciously judge as good or bad could be that when I'm embarrassed, maybe I consider that as sort of kind of a little bit bad because it's sort of painful and I feel really raw. Or I consciously judge my anger. If I'm angry and maybe sort of snippy with somebody, maybe I consider that as bad. And when I can say consider that as bad, really I'm saying there's a part of me that I'm saying I am bad. My emotion is bad, which is connecting to me. When it's just, it's like the weather. The weather maybe is bad, but it's like, it's not me. I read something last night when I was looking, it's like, I am the sky. I am not the weather. So it's like you're the sky, you're not the weather. Your anger is not you. It's something you experience, and it's a messenger of something that is maybe unmet inside of you. And then how and when am I controlled by the outside? So maybe when I'm with a group of people that I don't know, I'm sort of controlled by the I find that maybe I'm controlled by the outside by being really quiet and sort of scared and maybe insecure and self-conscious. So there are times when I may be with a group of new people and I feel like I'm being expected to be really friendly and really nice and really social. But maybe that's not my experience. That's not what I really feel. I feel a little bit shy. And when I'm shy, I get quiet. And then when I get quiet, I think, oh gosh, I'm being too quiet. What's wrong with me? And so that then gets me to that place of sort of depleting my energy. So when I do that, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to bring acceptance to what I'm experiencing and being able to have compassion for? It's okay, whatever I'm feeling. I can love myself and like really have some compassion for maybe this is hard right now. So how and when am I controlled by the outside? So you have these 3 questions. You can choose which ones you want to go to first collaboratively. Maybe each one of you can choose which one you want to answer. You can decide. You're all wise and creative, and you can listen to your intuition. You can placate your partners to say whatever you want to do. Again, that's a choice that you can make. So Jennifer is putting you in, going to like give you some breakout rooms. We'll give you 30 minutes. You can maybe do a little debrief of what you hear me talking about and what I'm teaching from this lovely book. And if you haven't, you might have hopefully taken a picture of this or written these questions down. Oh, Jennifer's writing on me. Or maybe I'm
No,
writing on you.
no,
Okay.
that's not me. That's you.
Okay. So just quickly, I just wanted to give some credit to copyright 2009, 1978 by BSGN, and Mary Ann Norfleet also in 2009. Okay.